Sometimes you might be tempted to just grind a dent and fill it. But in this case, you would run into a problem because when it was hit right here, it pushed this out. So if we just filled it and then we started to block it, we would run into a high spot right here and it would foil your efforts. So today we're going to be using a small pogo stick or a hustler stick. It's called a mini pogo stick to pull this out right here while we're hitting the high spot. Then we'll grind it and fill it, and then we won't have this crazy body line. The first step is to grind the area clean. The next step is to weld a stud right in the middle of that dent. Next, we're going to use this mini pogo stick. I took a vice grips and I clamped it to the stud. I'm going to take this pogo stick and I'm going to hook it in the jaws of that vice grip. I'm going to use the leverage of this mini pogo stick to pull up on the low and hit the high with the body hammer. So here we go. And hopefully our stud holds. Sometimes these little studs can pop off. But I'm going to pull back on this while tapping. And I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm just aiming to make sure that we can fill this and get it to look exactly the way it's supposed to, without having high spots. Oh, and I pulled the stud off there. But I think we got it pretty close. I'm going to weld another stud right here, and we'll get it the rest of the way. After I get that stud welded on, I'll be back. After welding on another stud and clamping the vice grip to it, we're going to hook into the jaws again and pull once more with the mini pogo stick while hitting the high spots. And as you're hitting this high spot, you should see this low spot come out. It helps the low spot to come out. And I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut this stud off, grind this area clean, mix up some filler, and we'll go about filling it. Now, as I was preparing this for filler, I did notice that my body line was just a little wavy. So again, one more stud welded on, vice grips, and we're going to pull it one more time just to make sure that I get this little bit of a wave out of there. And I welded that stud almost on the body line. And I think that looks pretty good. Even though it popped off, I think it looks much better. I think it looks a lot better than it did. Now we don't even have to cut that off. Just grind it down a bit. And now we'll just mix up some filler. And that should do it. I'll move the camera and we'll spread this on. And now we'll just spread it on there real nice. And that should be good. After the filler has hardened a bit and it's still a little bit rubbery, you can use a cheese grater to knock it down a little bit so that your sanding is a lot easier. So here I have one that's broken. It's a little bit small and we can use this to cheese grate it. So we're just going to knock it down a little bit. Just so that our sanding is going to be a lot easier, a lot less dust. And there's what you get right there. I know it's a small spot, and you know a lot of people would just start hitting it with a block, but hey, it's a lot less breathing dust. And I like doing it anyway. And that should be good. I'm going to let it harden and I'll come back and hit it with some 40 grit on a block. And now we should be able to finish it up. And that's good with the 40. I'm going to hit it with 80 grit, clean this area up, put a coat of primer on it so you can see what the finished panel looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this video on dent removal strategies using a mini pogo stick and a stud welder. And if you did, and you'd like to get my latest videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.